Hey, we're live, and we are live to talk about your ultimate life, your dream life. I wonder if a dream life is the right way to call that, or ultimate life is what I call it. What do you call it? What is your language for what I call the ultimate life? Purpose, prosperity, joy. What is your language? Some people talk about freedom. Ooh, if I could just have freedom. And all those things are fun and desirable. There's no question. You want them, everybody wants them. And we want somehow the world to order itself in such a way that we get to have what we think we want. Well, do you think that's a possibility or just a dream? Because we all dream. I remember my brother and I, my younger brother, he's 4 years younger than I, and we had bunk beds and we were in the same shared room. We were growing up. And we used to have wild pretend sessions and create worlds where, sometimes we were characters and sometimes stuffed animals that we had were characters. And so we had dream worlds and, we called them monsters, good guys and bad guys, and the typical stuff. You probably have your own fantastic realms and universes that you created, lived in, and participated in. Imaginary friends, people, monsters, kitties. We called them kitties. I don't know why. I don't know that the stuffed animals were cats, but that's just what we chose. It's funny because we never had any domestic animals growing up. Somehow that was just not on the radar. My mom grew up on a farm and she thought everything had germs and didn't want them in the house or something. We did have a rabbit that stayed outside. My older sister had a rabbit for a little while, and my dad built her a nice little hutch for the rabbit, and it was one. And I don't really remember what happened. It was around for a while and then it wasn't. My recollection doesn't do that. Anyway, my question is, do you have your dream life? Most people I talk to immediately, they answer one of two ways. Very frustrated, no. And then they list a bunch of reasons and things that are missing, either actually or emotionally through clenched teeth. Or I get an answer that's like, well, things are good. If only, and then they list three or four things, if only. What, like, you're built to have joy and fun and enjoy this life. We're not supposed to, just live in perpetual suffering. So what is the problem? Well, I don't know for you, but what I discovered for me is one huge thing was I defined suffering as when crap around me isn't like I want it, I'm not happy. I don't have the money or the weather or the people or the friends or the relationship or whatever. And I'm talking about over the course of my life. And I kept doing that because things weren't. Now I have a lot of music out. So if you like music, you're interested in exploring it, go to Spotify. You can go to Apple or Amazon or any of the other platforms, SoundCloud or Deezer or whatever. And you'll find not only my podcast, but you'll find a bunch of music. Put my name in. And I've got, I think, 91 songs in commercial release. So that's a thing that is passion for me. I love it. When I get in the studio and I'm working on stuff, hours go by, and it would be days, except I have the calls and things that need to happen. So I do get to the opportunity to keep track of things. But I have lived most of my life. I'm 68. I'll be 69 in December. So I'm 68 and a half or something. Most of my life, I lived either partially unhappy or very unhappy. I lived a life doing what I thought I was supposed to do and resenting it, or being frustrated about it, or wondered, if I'm trying so hard to do what I'm supposed to do, why isn't life better? Why aren't things like more lined up? Why don't the ducks line up or the stars or whatever it was? I finally realized that the world isn't going to order itself according to my wishes. It's not going to happen. The world has been unfolding flawlessly for umpteen billion years before you or I ever showed up. And it's not going to change the way it unfolds on my account. That might sound like a recipe for frustration. Oh no, it's not going to change like I want. You know what the good news is? The good news is you can carve out of that world anything you want, but nobody's going to carve it for you. There's a poem that I don't have memorized, and I've recited some poetry on here before, But this one talks about a person going through life and realizing at the end that they had settled for a pittance, and sadly, that life would have paid any wage, any experience, any opportunity that they had been determined to create. So I want you to just think about that. What if it's true that you can create your life like you want it? What if that's true? Now, you might be full of all kinds of argument about why that's not true and why I'm full of crap. You're free to think that, but I'd like you to just play this thought game with me. That's how Einstein and others, they had thought experiments, right? If you've seen those movies talking about the great discoveries in physics and the quantum mechanics and all the stuff that happened early 1900s up to about 1950, 60 that are still going on, but there was kind of a golden age for a while. They did thought experiments. So let's do a thought experiment. What if it's possible to create the life you want, their life experience? Now, I don't mean I get to go out and wave my arms and command the weather. I don't mean I get to just wave my arms and command Amazon to deliver, or Rosalind Capital or anybody else to deliver gold bars on my porch, because those are externalities. But what if I can have the kind of experience that I want? Joyful, fun, happy, free, exciting, purposeful, prosperous, joyful. I think I said that twice. Just thought experiment. What if it were possible? So let's pretend for a minute that it is. So let's go down the road. It says it is possible to create a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. Now, those are my 3 words. What are yours? What words describe that dream life? So what if it's possible to create that? My first question would be, okay, I'm going with you. I'll go with you down the thought experiment. What if it's possible? What do I need to do? Where's the magic button? Where's the secret doorway? Where's the secret formula? What is it that I got to do or be or say or something to have it? Who do I need to meet? Who has to pull some strings? And that sometimes is how come we yell at God. We think, well, God's all powerful. So if I go push some buttons on the cosmic vending machine, the perfect life just sort of pops out like Twinkies. And then that doesn't happen. And so we get frustrated and angry and blame whatever we blame. And then we go, well, it's not possible. Well, it's not possible. Well, let's set all that argument aside and pretend, or just go down the thought experiment that it's possible for you to create the life you want. Here's the first question. If you found the keys, if you found the path, if you found the secret door or the formula or whatever, I call it the ultimate life formula, but if you found your formula, are you willing to do it? See, this is a really interesting question, because we live in a world right now where everything gets solved in the length of a TV sitcom, or certainly in the length of a 10 or 20 episode series, right? Everything is download and double click. I want the answer to something. I pop on Google, and now AI, Chat GPT 4.0 and 9 point whatever, and I look it up and the answer is right there in black and white. Well, that's not happiness. If you Google happiness, that doesn't make you happy. If you ask Chat GPT, what does it take to be happy? Give me the formula for happiness. It won't matter what it spits out. The question that matters is this: are you or are we willing to do whatever it is? Now, before you say, yes, of course, I'll do anything if I could just have that dream life, you can. But my experience as a coach, and as a high-level coach working with high-powered people that make millions, tens of millions, make huge impact in the world, working with those folks, when I talk to them and say, well, what do you want? And we say, okay, I want this. And we start looking at the steps required to get that, assuming it's possible to create anything. Then comes the moment of truth. The rubber hits the road, and it's like, wow, I didn't realize I have to do that in order to go there. I didn't realize that was one of the ingredients. It's like saying, I want a cake, but I'm not willing to go get the ingredients. I'm not willing to have the patience to mix the dry stuff and the wet stuff, and I'm not a cook. You're going to know that right away, or a baker, I guess is the right word. I'm not that. So I'm going to ruin the analogy if I don't shut up. But if you're not willing to do the things in the right order, then you're not going to have a very good cake. And we say, duh, well, that's obvious. Well, creating your dream life's the same. So if you go down the road with me, it's possible to have anything you want, to create life, your life experience, how you wake up every day, how you feel as you go through the day, all that. If you can have anything you want, are you willing to do what's necessary to create it? Now, I don't know what's necessary for you to create yours. I would be able to help with that because that's all I do. I talk to people about what they want and what is necessary to create that. I had several phone calls today, brand new people I've never met. What is the topic? What are they doing now? What do they want? What's the difference? What's missing? What are possibilities to do to create the difference between where they want to be and where they're at? So here's the two parts to that. One is a project. If you're here on my elbow and you want to get down here to my fingers and you want to take that just a certain set of steps, I got to walk that road. I want to climb a high mountain. And if it's a real technical mountain and really high, 14, 15,000 feet or more, I have to do some training. I might have to get some technical gear. I might have to get some guides. I might have to practice a lot. So there's a lot of steps. So if I say, I want to have I ascended this mountain, I've got to do these steps or I won't make it. Well, creating your dream life is the same. So the first piece is to decide where you're going. If I just say, well, I'm going to climb a mountain, I can just walk down to the river valley here in Edmonton and walk up a hill and say, victory. And then I'm unsatisfied because I'll say, well, I didn't mean that. Okay, what exactly did I mean? And so that's a first piece, is to sort of decide what you really want. So much of the time we contaminate what we really want by what we think we can have. So let's take that chain, since we're in a thought experiment, right? The thought experiment is you can have anything you want. You can create your life. You can make it happen. Okay, cool. So without chains, without boundaries of what I think is possible, what would that look like? If you can't get really clear on that, like really precise, it's going to be really hard to build a project plan to get there, right? So just like I said, if I'm going to walk up a hill, I don't need a bunch of training and a bunch of technical gear. If I want to climb, I think it's Aconcagua is I think the highest peak in South America. And I only know that because I talked to a friend of mine the other day who's a massive leadership coach, and he took some men up that peak. And it was amazing, the experience. Anyway, if I don't know where I'm going, I certainly can't put a plan together to get there. Now, let's say we get past that hurdle. I know exactly where I'm going, how much money I want, the house, the car, the feeling, the relationship, personal, fulfillment. I know exactly what that looks like. Then there's the next question. Okay, how do I get that? How do I get those skills? Or how do I get that equipment? How do I prepare for this thing? Well, that's not a mystery either, because any project can be accomplished, any project. And there are steps to get it done, and they're not hard to find. Now, if you're doing something that's never been done, like you say, I want to build a habitat for humanity on the dark side of the moon, then there's a different question. But no one that I have ever talked to, really, no one that I've ever talked to has said what their goals are that even sound impossible to me. So let's assume for a minute that when you say your dream life, the characteristics of it, the design pieces, and you understand and you can state them clearly. The real question is, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to do the work? That stops more progress, prevents more businesses from growing, prevents the acquisition of customers, prevents the personal transformation necessary. Because if I want to do something or have something I have never done or had, then I have to become a different person, because the person that I am has built what I got now. So if I want something new and different, I got to be a different person. That may be little changes and they may be drastic, but I got to come to grips with that. So after I look at the steps required to create that life I want, And if you say physical things, money, car, house, whatever, spiritual things, my relationship to the divine, my relationship to my spouse or my kids or whatever, then I look at the steps required, what has to happen to get there. And then comes decision time. And that's why I named this one Decision. It's easy to dream. It's easy to wish. It's easy to say, well, I want that, comma, and I want it to come without effort, and I want it to come free, and I want it to come right this second, and I want to not have to do anything to get it. Well, we know how that works. Do a Google search on people that have won large lottery jackpots. By far, the majority have not handled the money well, have ended up within a few years, 2 to 5, broke and often worse off than they were before because they didn't take the steps. It was an accidental bequest. So as much fun as it seems like to get it all without effort, it almost never turns out well. So the decision is what I want to talk about today. How bad do you want that ultimate life? Like, what is it really worth to you to get there? People say, I want to achieve a certain level of fitness. Well, I got a friend also that just went on over the last year a fitness journey, and he'd made a declaration that he wanted to get in the best shape of his life, and he shared a lot of pictures along the way. But the decision on doing that was taken over a year ago, and he mapped out the steps, which included a lot of gym workout and bodybuilding stuff, and he accomplished the goal. Finished. The loop was closed. Done. But it didn't even start until there was a decision. I am going there. I don't know all the heartaches. I don't know all the struggles. I don't know all the noise that's going to happen, the challenges or whatever, but I'm going whatever they are. Now, that was an example of a physical challenge. I know people that have done exactly the same thing with money. I'm going to create a certain amount of money. And after the decision is firm and clear and irrevocable, then the steps start happening and the goal gets accomplished. I made a decision like that when I changed my life in 2007. Before that, as you know, I had drug problems and was in and out of rehab and a bunch of other stuff. I made an irrevocable decision in the end of August of 2007. I was going to change my life permanently, forever, and in a powerful new direction. I had no idea what would be required. I had no idea what the steps were or the help I needed or anything else. And I said, I'm going there anyway. And on the way, I discovered a lot of things. Cost me money, time, effort, but the choice never wavered. And consequently, I have achieved. I'm standing on top of that mountain. Now, here's the thing. In all the stories I've told you, there's nothing special about any of us, the people that I talked about, myself or the others. And the only difference is one thing. The one difference is the decision. The decision. Now, there's 4 parts to this, and I'm only going to talk about the decision today. But the first piece of the decision is it's not negotiable. I'm going to make this change. Now, I invite you to consider your birthright. You're a divine being. You were created by God, whatever you conceive that to be. Someone called it God force the other day, the divine creative force. I have a personal relationship because I died and had conversations, but whatever the case, you're divine. You have gifts, you have talents, you have the ability to create. Whether you've used it well or poorly or a mixed bag up to this point doesn't matter. The only effect that has is it's created a lens that you wear today about what's possible for you. Well, I can't because. And most of those lenses are limiting. There are very few lenses that are empowering. You can have those, but they are creatable. So, what is your decision? Are you willing to define your ultimate life? Are you willing to map out the steps, make an irrevocable decision about your going? Even if you don't know how yet, that'll come in later steps. The simplicity of the process rests so much on just a decision to do it. I'm going. Don't know how long it's going to take. Don't know what's required, but I'm going. And the reason is because I have declared it's worth it. Here's the fun part. Nobody gets to decide that for you. You don't need anyone's approval. You don't need anyone's agreement. You, as a sovereign divine being, you get to decide who you are in the world. So because you're divine, that means you have divine capabilities. Now, everybody's different. I understand that. Everybody's gifts and experience are wildly different. But you still have the ability to create. Now, most people never live up to their real possibility. In other words, what they really could create, physically, spiritually, relationship-wise, impact in the world, because we're not willing to commit, to go all in, to decide this is who I am and this is where I'm going. So in this thought, I invite you to do three things. The first invitation is to go to the URL on the screen, www.yourultimatelife.ca. Go there. There's some free stuff there for you. Now, it's free in terms of money. It's not free in terms of effort. 5 master keys to create your ultimate life. The second invitation is if you don't know what you really want in life, like you can't really describe it precisely, I'd love to have a conversation with you, because helping you do that is a specialty that I have because of my own journey and experience. And the third thing is maybe you've said that and you can articulate it well, but you feel like it's outside the realm of possibility. Yeah, I can say it, but I don't believe it. That's another place. My commitment this year is to help 250 million people really see who they really are, and then create on the way to that dream. I'd love you to be one of them. I'd love to visit with you, get to know you, and see your divine nature and gifts. Another thing that's not one of the three invitations, but I guess it is, a fourth one is, I love meeting you and hearing about your goals and your journey, because I have a podcast and an LA Talk radio show, which is going to be later this afternoon, to talk with, to spread the message of, to encourage and to give exposure to those who are in the process of self-creation. It doesn't have to be a drag, sorrowful, hateful, negative, full of negativity. Joy every day. I challenge you. I invite you. I love you. I want to help you if you want it. You are the architect. Your building awaits. We'll see you tomorrow.